Welcome to Radio Free Mind with your host, Daniel.
Hello, welcome to another edition of Radio Free Mind. I'm Daniel, your host, and I'm here for this period of time just to share some ideas that I've learned over my life and by association with some people that I feel have been successful. Just to kind of define this show a little bit, I try to avoid such things as celebrity hi-jinks, the latest fear of the week, except maybe to kind of scoff at it. And I try to just sort of maybe glance against politics to help remind us just how useless politics really is. This show is based on a book I'm writing called Be Brave, Be Free. The goal of it is to help all of us, including myself, learn what true freedom is. And some of the things that I've learned, and I welcome any of your comments. Feel free to send them in. Just email me at daniel@radiofreemind.com. I'll be happy to look at your email and incorporate it in a future show and perhaps even answer it in writing on the web. I think it's always good to know what somebody's base assumptions are when you're having a conversation with them. It helps to put things in perspective and to weigh them against your own feelings. One of my assumptions is that good ideas can come from anyone. Even the most ridiculous-seeming person often can blurt out something that leads to a wonderful idea that you can have in any subject, whether you're talking about business or the deeper subjects that we try to examine here. What I try to touch on is how to live life. What is a worthy purpose of life as we define it ourselves, and how might one achieve that? I don't assume that you believe in God. I don't think it's important for the purpose of what we're doing here. I grew up not believing, and slowly over a period of years later in my life, starting when I was about 50-something, came to believe there is a God. But I don't believe it's necessary to believe in God to live a life that's good per your own definition. In my case, I think it helps, but I can't say that for everyone. So it's something that I believe is very personal, and I'll only touch upon it as it might become relevant to what we discuss here. The goal of this podcast and the book I'm writing, first of all, it's aimed for those who can work up the energy to go beyond what we're fed every day, especially on the mass media. And by looking beyond that, decide for yourself what is a good life and how to achieve it. Now, I personally define my own benefit as including benefiting others in certain ways, but I believe we have to benefit ourselves first. We have to keep ourselves healthy and in a strong place so that if you want to help other people, you're able to from a position of strength, not from a position of desperation or not to the detriment of, let's say, your family or your own self, the things that you need to do, provide food for yourself, keep yourself healthy mentally and physically. The goal is to have us become empowered and able to deal with reality, not to be depressed and angry the way so many people are these days. If you listen to the radio, especially people that call in, and I'd say even a lot of the talk show hosts sound very angry, and they tend to lash out at people, especially those who disagree with them. I think it's part of my goal to help us be able to construct an environment in which to have a better life, which I include freedom as a big part of that. And you'll hear me talk about freedom a lot. Part of this, of course, is what kind of people you might associate with and might not want to associate with, that you tend to become more picky, I think, as you focus more on a purpose for life as to who you're going to associate with, because you don't want to associate with, for instance, a lot of unhappy people will sap energy from you. They'll try to put their problems on you. I think it's almost, in some cases, like a drowning person will end up dragging their potential lifeguard down with them out of desperation. It's not an intent, but it's a byproduct of their own fears and desperation. So I think to live an effective life, we have to decide who we're going to live around and associate with that will help us achieve our goals and hopefully we will get the feeling we're helping them too. I think there's a lot of positive reinforcement that helps you in life if you do that, if you're selective about who you associate with. This includes what kind of work you do, who you associate with at work, what is the nature of your association with people, what kind of friends you have, and what kind of romantic relationships you might end up in. So here is the way I see life. We're brought up in a kind of box. It's almost a cliche to talk about thinking outside of the box, but it's a good metaphor, I think, that we are boxed in. If you deal with little kids, it's funny because you end up chuckling at them sometimes because to them almost anything is possible. Time and space mean nothing to them almost, that they just look at life as if anything is possible. The problem with that, of course, is that there are certain limits to us, and these limits may change, but we are taught to put our own limits on top of those limits. That is the kind of box I'm talking about. So part of what I'm going to be discussing with you on these podcasts is how to recognize the walls of the box and recognize that they're not impenetrable, that we can get beyond them. We can bend the box to our own shape or even kind of ignore it, at least to a certain extent. I think as human beings, we do accept certain limitations which may or may not be valid. For instance, I have dreams occasionally that I can just sort of flap my arms and fly. I've honestly never tried it in life because to me it's an impossible thing, so I don't even try it. But who knows, if I did try it, it might work. If I do, I think I'll do it from ground level. I'm not going to jump off a building to try it. But there again, that may be a mistake. I'm not willing to risk that, though. So the phrase in my head, and possibly yours too, that something's always been that way or that we've always assumed something, we should sort of take that with a grain of salt for the purpose of our discussions here and start thinking a little bit outside boxes. Because these boxes, usually as you'll find, benefit someone else. Now, not always in a mean-spirited way. Our parents build a box for us because they want us to be safe and they may want us to achieve certain things. Then it gets a little bit questionable as far as our education system, that I think they build a box because the product they want to turn out is a malleable sort of wage slave, somebody who just does what they're told, goes to bed, and then wakes up the next morning and goes to work, and doesn't call in sick too much, doesn't question things, certainly doesn't question authority. You're certainly taught that in school, not to question authority. So we'll examine that and try to think of some ways of overcoming that, or at least minimizing the limits imposed by that kind of thing. When I talk about be brave, be free, what do I mean by bravery? I think what bravery is, it's looking things in the face and trying to do so with a clear mind so that we're not intimidated by what's always been or what authority figures want from us. Because I think more and more they do want something from us, and I don't think it's right for us to just give it up. I think we should consider whether we should give in and be very selective about what we give to them and why. I think the phrases "I can't help it" or "I have no choice" are cop-outs. There's no use in fighting City Hall, or "nothing's inevitable but death and taxes." I would take taxes out of that there are ways of living your life in such a way to at least minimize the impact of taxation without going to jail or having the IRS break down your door. There are always choices, and the brave people face the ugly or scary ones and consider their validity for long-term benefit. Well, this is basically an introduction to my philosophy and what I'll try to help spread through my podcast and through my book and through this website, and I hope that I've piqued your appetite a little bit and you'll listen to the next one. So for now, this is Daniel, thanking you for listening. Don't forget to send me an email if you feel like it. It's daniel@radiofreemind.com. So until we talk again, think about what I've said, come up with your own ideas if you like, and send them in. And whatever you do, keep your mind free.